December 1944. The Ardennes. Thick forests. Frozen silence. The kind of place where even your own breath sounded like betrayal. Our orders were simple. At least, that's what command said. Find the missing recon team. Retrieve any intelligence. Report back by dawn. We were 6 men. Sergeant Holt, our leader. A man who didn't scare easy. Corporal Reeves, radio operator. Nervous hands, sharp mind. Private Dalton, the youngest of us, barely 20. Then there was Fisher, Grant, and me. Private Kane. We'd been walking for hours, following the coordinates given by HQ. But the deeper we went into the forest, the less anything felt right. The snow wasn't falling straight anymore. It seemed to drift sideways, as if the wind itself didn't know which way to go. There was no sound, no birds, no wind, just our boots crunching on the frozen ground and the dull hum of static from Reeves's radio. He kept adjusting the dial, muttering, "Something's jamming the signal." At first, we thought it was enemy interference, but when the signal broke through for a moment, what we heard wasn't German. It wasn't even human, just a long, drawn-out tone, like a deep, mechanical breath. We stopped walking. Even Holt froze. Dalton whispered, "Sir, that came from ahead." Through the trees, we could see faint lights, not torches, not fires, a soft glow beneath the ground. Holt raised his hand. "Stay low, move slow." We approached the hill carefully, and then we saw it. Half buried under ice and roots, a steel hatch, a bunker door. No markings, no guards, just there, waiting. Fisher ran his glove over the metal. It was freezing cold, yet it hummed faintly, like something was alive beneath it. Reeves whispered, "Sir, there's no power out here." "How is that possible?" No one answered. Because we didn't have one. The trees around us leaned inward as the wind picked up, and for a second, I swore I heard whispers in it. German, or something older. Holt crouched near the door. A symbol was carved into the steel. Not a swastika, not a number. Just a circle with a single line through it, like a clock hand frozen in time. He looked at us and said the words that started everything. "Gentlemen, welcome to the silent bunker." And as if the forest had been waiting for him to say it, the wind stopped, the snow froze mid-air, and the hum beneath our feet grew louder. The hatch creaked as Holt turned the wheel. It shouldn't have opened that easily. The metal was old, rusted, frozen solid, yet it gave way with a low, hollow groan, like the bunker itself was exhaling after years of silence. A foul, stale smell rose out. Metal, oil, and something that had been dead a long time. Reeves covered his mouth. "Jesus, what is that?" Holt ignored him. He pointed his flashlight down the stairwell. Concrete steps disappeared into blackness. The air shimmered with cold mist. One by one, we descended. Every step echoed like a gunshot. About 20 feet down, the walls changed, from rough concrete to smooth steel. The kind of build no Allied engineer could have made out here. Dalton whispered, "Sir, this isn't German, is it?" No one replied. We were all thinking the same thing. At the bottom, we found a long corridor, dim lights flickering on the ceiling. Reeves checked his radio again. The static was gone. Now there was something else coming through. A low voice, distorted, repeating a single word, over and over. "Zurück, zurück, zurück. Return, return, return." Fisher turned pale. "Sir, that's German. It's saying go back." Holt clenched his jaw. "Keep moving." We passed a row of rooms with shattered glass panels. Inside were tables, metal restraints, and stains on the walls that had long turned brown. Grant muttered, "Experiment rooms. What the hell were they doing here?" At the far end, a door stood open. Inside, a single light bulb swung slowly from the ceiling. A desk sat in the center. On it, a leather-bound journal. Holt flipped through it. Pages filled with sketches. Human anatomy, electrical circuits, and strange symbols that matched the one carved on the bunker door. In the back of the book was a single note in English. They wanted to end death. Instead, they built something that couldn't die. Suddenly, Reeves's radio crackled again. This time, not German. A voice, a man's voice. Calm, measured, and very, very close. You shouldn't be here. Every flashlight swung toward the door. No one was there, Dalton shouted. Who said that? Silence. Then, thud, thud, thud. Footsteps above us. Heavy ones. Grant aimed his rifle toward the stairs. But the sound wasn't just footsteps. It was dragging. Something. Pulling itself across the floor. Holt barked, "Positions!" Lights on the entrance. We waited. The sound stopped halfway down the stairs. Then we saw it. A hand. Pale. Thin. Almost skeletal. Gripping the railing. Fingers too long to be human. Nails like metal hooks. Reeves whispered, "Oh my God." And then, slowly, a face leaned into the light. Skin stretched tight across bone. Eyes black and wet like oil. Dalton opened fire. The shots thundered through the corridor. The thing didn't scream, didn't bleed, just fell back into the dark. When the smoke cleared, Holt yelled, "Fall back to surface. Move!" Darkness. That's all there was after the hatch sealed. Reeves smacked the radio, trying to get a signal. Just static now, broken by faint whispers. Dalton's flashlight flickered weakly, cutting through the black like a dying heartbeat. Holt's voice broke the silence. "Sound off." We answered one by one. Grant, Fisher, Reeves, Dalton, me. But when Holt called his own name, something else answered. A deep breath. Raspy. Wet. Like air being pulled through water. It came from the corridor. Dalton aimed his light. The hallway was empty. Only the echo of his shaking breath. Grant shouted, "Sir!" The hatch wheel. It's locked from the outside. Holt ran to it, pulling with all his strength. But the steel didn't budge. We were trapped. The cold down there was unnatural. Not the kind that burns your skin, but the kind that seeps into your bones, like the air itself was alive and hungry. Fisher muttered, "It's not air. It's breathing with us." Reeves kept trying the radio. The whispers grew louder. Sometimes they formed words. Not German, not English, something older. Holt turned to me. "Kane, grab that flashlight. We need to find another way out." We moved deeper into the bunker. The corridors twisted in impossible ways. Some slanted upward, others down. It was like walking through a maze that kept changing behind you. Dalton stumbled on something in the dark. When he aimed his light down, we saw boots, then legs, then the rest of a soldier. But the body wasn't fresh. It was dry, mummified, like it had been dead for decades. Yet the uniform, it was ours. Holt crouched beside it and pulled a tag from the chest. The name read, Lieutenant Holt. Our Holt froze. That's not possible. Fisher whispered, "Sir, what if—" A metallic clang cut him off. Something moved behind us. We turned our lights back toward the corridor. The floor was wet. Not with water, with footprints. Fresh ones. They trailed from the body toward the shadows. Dalton was trembling. "Sir, I don't think we're supposed to see this." Then, without warning, every light went out. The sound that followed still haunts me when I close my eyes. A scraping, dragging noise, like hundreds of nails clawing against steel, coming closer and closer. Fisher screamed and fired blindly into the dark. Each muzzle flash lit up flashes of movement. Something crawling along the ceiling. Long limbs, eyes reflecting white. Too fast to be human. Then it dropped. The impact shook the corridor, the sound of metal bending. Grant shouted, "Run!" We ran through the dark, stumbling, falling, screaming each other's names. The corridor split into two. Holt yelled for us to stick together, but Reeves darted down the left tunnel, clutching his radio. Dalton ran after him, and then their screams echoed through the walls. A single gunshot, then silence. I turned to Holt, breathless. "What is that thing?" He looked straight ahead, eyes hollow. "That is what's left of them." The corridors swallowed every sound after Dalton and Reeves vanished. Only the faint hum remained, low, rhythmic, like a heartbeat beneath the floor. We moved slow now, rifles up, flashlights trembling in our hands. Every flicker of light revealed faces that weren't really there. Half-formed shadows pressed against the walls, as if something was inside the concrete, trying to get out. Fisher whispered, "Sir, we need to turn back." Holt didn't answer. He was staring at the steel door ahead, thicker than the rest, sealed shut with a wheel lock. Painted on it in dark red were the words, "Verboten, Project Morgensturm." "Forbidden, Project Morgensturm," Grant muttered. "What the hell is that?" Holt ran his hand over the word, then turned the wheel. It opened too easily. A hiss of cold air rushed out, carrying the stench of rot and oil. Inside, rows of glass tanks filled the room. Bodies floated inside them. German soldiers, some missing limbs, others fused with metal, wires stitched into skin, eyes replaced by lenses that glowed faintly in the dark. Fisher gagged. My God, they were experimenting on their own men. But I noticed something worse. Not all of the tanks were German. Some were Allied uniforms, torn, blood-stained, and still moving. One tank cracked with a faint pop, and the liquid began to leak. Inside, the body twitched. Grant aimed his rifle. "Sir, it's alive." Holt raised a hand. "Hold fire." The glass shattered. The creature inside fell to the floor, convulsing, coughing out black liquid. Then it looked up. Its face was barely human, skin melted with metal, eyes pitch black, jaw trembling like it was trying to form words. And it did. In a hoarse, broken voice that sounded like several people speaking at once, it said, "They said we'd live forever." Then it screamed, a sound so shrill and unnatural it made the lights explode overhead. The rest of the tanks began to vibrate, bubbles rising, hands slamming against glass from the inside. Holt shouted, "Out! Now!" We bolted down the corridor as the room erupted behind us. Steam, glass, screams, all merging into a deafening roar. We stumbled into another chamber, this one filled with old equipment. Computers, typewriters, radio machines, all still powered, humming faintly. Fisher tapped a monitor. The screen flickered to life, displaying a date, December 19th, 1944, and a single message in German. Test successful. Subject containment compromised. Evacuation denied. Grant turned to Holt. "Evacuation denied? You mean they locked themselves in?" Holt's face went pale. "They didn't lock themselves in." He looked at the ceiling. "They locked something else in." The hum beneath us grew louder, deep, mechanical, pulsing like a massive machine coming alive below the floor. The air shook. Lights flickered red. And over the radio, Reeves's voice returned. "Sir, help. It's not human. It's using our voices." Then static. Fisher's scream. The floor trembled beneath our boots. Somewhere deep below, something massive was waking up. The air filled with that same low hum, only now it was louder, deeper, almost alive. Grant yelled over the noise. "What the hell is that sound?" Holt didn't answer. He was staring at a hatch in the floor. Heavy steel, bolted shut. Fresh air was blowing from the gaps, but it wasn't air. It was warm, wet, and with every pulse of the sound, the hatch seemed to breathe. Fisher whispered, "It's alive down there." The lights flickered red again. Somewhere above us, metal groaned, the bunker shifting like it was stretching. Holt grabbed the journal from earlier, the one marked with strange symbols, and flipped to the last page. A hand-drawn schematic showed something impossible. A massive machine built beneath the bunker, connected to dozens of bodies through cables and wires. A note beside it read, Phase 3, Integration. The machine requires consciousness to operate. Grant stepped back, horrified. You mean they used people? Holt nodded grimly. They didn't just use them. They fed it. The noise grew louder. Then, a sound that made every muscle in my body lock. Breathing, real breathing, slow, heavy, deep, echoing through the walls. Dalton was gone. Reeves was gone. Now it was just Holt, Grant, Fisher, and me. We decided to go down. We had to see what was underneath. The hatch opened with a metallic shriek, releasing a rush of steam that smelled like blood and iron. Below, a ladder descended into darkness. One by one, we climbed down. At the bottom, we found a cavern. Huge, circular, glowing faintly red. Cables ran along the walls like veins. At the center stood the machine. It wasn't just metal. It was flesh and metal combined. Tubes pulsed with fluid that looked too much like blood. Engines turned in slow, rhythmic motion, like lungs expanding and contracting. And along the base, rows of human faces, half embedded in steel, their mouths open, whispering in perfect unison. Zurück, zurück, zurück. Return, return, return. Fisher dropped his rifle and fell to his knees. Oh God, they're alive. Holt stepped closer, flashlight trembling. The beam landed on a glass panel filled with dark liquid. Inside, a body floated, but it wasn't human anymore. It was hundreds of bodies fused into one shape, their arms tangled, faces overlapping, their eyes blinking together like one giant organism. Then, the eyes turned toward us. The bunker shook, the machine groaned, and a voice, deep, mechanical, yet painfully human, filled the chamber. You came to end the war, but war never ends. Grant screamed and opened fire. Bullets tore into the mass, but the holes sealed instantly. The voice grew louder, and the faces began to move, twisting, reforming into the shape of soldiers. They stepped out from the walls, metal fused with flesh, rifles in their hands, eyes glowing red. Fisher shouted, "They're using the dead!" We ran, boots slamming against metal, lungs burning from the smoke. The whole bunker was alive now. Every wall, every pipe, pulsing like veins under the earth. Alarms wailed in a language we couldn't understand, a mix of German and something deeper, mechanical, almost like screaming. Fisher shouted, "Sir, they're coming from below." I looked back and saw them, dozens of figures crawling out of the hatch, not soldiers anymore. Their flesh was metal, their faces stitched and smooth, with eyes that glowed red from inside their skulls. Each step they took echoed like iron hitting bone. Holt fired into the first one. It fell, twitched, and then stood back up. Grant yelled, "Bullets don't work." The corridor lights began flickering, and for a moment I saw something impossible. The shadows on the wall were moving against the light, like they were alive on their own. We turned left, past the experiment rooms, past the broken glass, and into what looked like an old elevator shaft. Holt slammed the door controls. Nothing. No power. The hum beneath our feet grew stronger. The whole bunker was shaking. The sound of gears turning under the floor. Then the voice came again, that deep, layered, mechanical voice that wasn't one person, but hundreds. They fed me death. Now I feed on the living. Fisher screamed. It's inside the walls. Panels along the corridor burst open. Thick, black cables whipping out like tentacles, snapping toward us. One wrapped around Fisher's leg and yanked him off his feet. He screamed, "Help me, please!" Holt grabbed his arm, pulling hard, but the cables were too strong. They dragged Fisher backward, his screams echoing until they stopped. The cables retreated, and all that was left was his helmet, bent and covered in blood. Grant stared in shock. "Sir, we can't stop it." Holt's voice was low, hard. "We're not stopping it. We're getting out." He looked at the old elevator shaft again. "If there's no power, then we climb." We pried the doors open. A black abyss stretched upward, barely lit by the flickering red light below. Rusted metal beams ran along the walls, and the faint sound of dripping echoed through the hollow. Holt went first, then me, then Grant. Halfway up I looked down. The red glow below was spreading, like blood flooding through the bunker, and something was moving inside it, something huge. Metal screamed as the entire shaft trembled. Grant slipped, catching himself on a beam. His flashlight fell, spinning, before hitting the bottom with a splash. For a second, everything was still. Then something looked up. I'll never forget that face. A dozen faces fused into one, eyes wide, jaws open, all screaming without sound. Grant shouted, "Oh God, it's climbing!" We climbed faster. Every muscle in my arms burned. Holt reached the top and pried open the emergency hatch. Cold air rushed in, fresh air, freedom. "Go!" he yelled. I climbed through first. Grant was behind me, reaching for my hand, and then a cable shot out from the shaft and wrapped around his throat. He gasped, "Sir, don't!" The pull was too strong. He disappeared back into the dark. One scream, then silence. Holt closed the hatch. The sound of pounding fists echoed beneath us. We lay on the frozen ground above, snow falling softly, the bunker below rumbling like something breathing beneath the earth. Faintly, through the ground, we heard the voice one last time. "You can't escape war, because war is already inside you." Holt stared at the forest. "Burn it," he said quietly. "No one ever finds this place." We never spoke of it again, but sometimes when I close my eyes, I still hear it breathing. Years had passed. The Ardennes were quiet again. Snow melted, spring returned, and the forest grew dense, hiding the horrors beneath. No one spoke of the bunker. No one returned, except the signal. Reeves's radio, long thought lost, was found by a passing patrol in 1945. The dial still turned. The static still whispered. A young soldier picked it up, turning the knobs slowly, thinking he could catch the last remnants of the missing platoon. Then it came. A voice, low, mechanical, familiar, layered with dozens of others. "You shouldn't be here." He laughed nervously, thinking it a prank. "Return, return, return." The forest wind outside shifted. The trees groaned. Something moved beneath the ground. The young soldier's knees buckled. He tried to drop the radio. It stayed in his hands. It hummed. It pulled. They wanted to escape, but there's no escaping war. We are the war. And then, static, silence. When the patrol returned to the spot the next day, they found only snow, footprints disappearing into nothingness, and a faint hum that the old soldiers whispered about. The silent bunker was awake again. No trace of the radio, no trace of the soldier, only the echo of voices, and the knowledge that deep beneath the Ardennes, something waited, waiting for the next ones who dared enter. Years had passed, decades. The war was over. The forest had grown thicker, swallowing roads, paths, even ruins. Stories of the silent bunker had faded into whispers, legends among old soldiers. But some things never die. A modern-day investigator, Lieutenant Renshaw, was following reports of strange electromagnetic readings deep in the Ardennes. Satellite scans showed a faint anomaly beneath the forest floor. He walked carefully, GPS in hand, snow crunching softly beneath his boots. His flashlight cut through the fog, revealing trees twisted unnaturally, as if the forest itself were warning him to leave. Renshaw muttered, "All the old reports. They're not exaggerating." The radio in his pack crackled. Static, then a whisper. "Return, return, return." He froze. Flashlight beams revealed a hatch, partially hidden under roots. It was exactly like the descriptions in the old journals. The circle with a line through it carved into the steel. Renshaw pressed his ear to the metal. The hum came again, low, pulsing, like something breathing beneath the ground. He radioed his team. "Coordinates confirmed. We found it. Prepare for descent." But as he reached for the wheel, the hatch moved slightly. A shadow passed beneath the steel. "You shouldn't be here." The words were layered, dozens of voices at once, echoing through time. Renshaw stepped back. The radio screamed in static, then quiet. The hum grew louder. The air thickened, heavy, alive. Then the snow above the bunker shook violently, as if something below had just moved. Something huge. He turned to run, but the forest around him was different. The fog thickened instantly, and shapes emerged, partially human, partially machine. Faces half metal, eyes glowing red. Renshaw's flashlight faltered, and for the first time he understood. The silent bunker wasn't just a relic of the past. It was awake, it was waiting, and it had been waiting for him. The hum faded slowly, leaving only silence. But if you listen closely, even today, the bunker beneath the Ardennes still breathes, awakening beneath. It had been weeks since Lieutenant Renshaw's initial descent. Satellite readings went dark. His team stopped answering radio calls. No one knew if they were alive or already part of the bunker below. Renshaw returned alone, determined to finish what he started. The forest was denser, colder than before, fog curling like smoke around twisted trees. The hatch waited for him, silent, unmoving, yet pulsing faintly, as if it had been breathing in anticipation. He descended carefully. Every step echoed through the steel corridors, now eerily familiar. The hum beneath grew louder, a steady, pulsing heartbeat that made his teeth chatter. In the main chamber, the machine had changed. Cables twisted like serpents. The fused bodies inside the tanks were moving faster now, their whispers louder, overlapping, chaotic, almost intelligent. Renshaw froze. The glass tanks vibrated, and one shattered. From inside, a figure emerged, half human, half mechanical, its head tilted unnaturally. Eyes glowing crimson, it stared directly at him. "You returned." The voice was layered, deeper than any one man. Every word echoed through the bunker's metal walls. Renshaw stumbled back, flashlight shaking. The walls themselves began to warp, as if the bunker were alive, adjusting, closing in on him. The war never ends, and neither do we. Then the floor trembled. Steel grated against steel. The machine pulsed like a living organism. Cables lashed out, narrowly missing his arms. Every sound, mechanical roars, whispering voices, the clatter of metal bodies, created a symphony of pure terror. Renshaw ran toward the stairwell, but the hatch at the top was moving, closing slowly on its own. He slammed against it, pried it open with all his strength, and glimpsed outside, fog rolling over the Ardennes, trees swaying as if alive. But when he looked down again, the machine was moving, bodies crawling in the shadows, faces pressing against the walls, and hundreds of glowing eyes fixed on him. Renshaw realized the truth. This was no longer a bunker. It was a predator, and it had learned to hunt. He bolted into the forest. Branches tore at his uniform. Snow burned his hands. Behind him, faint metal footsteps echoed. Not human, not machine, but both. He didn't look back. He knew, deep down, the bunker was not finished. It would wait. It would grow. It would awaken again. And someday, someone else would hear its whispers and descend. Renshaw wasn't alone this time. A small modern research team had followed him into the Ardennes, unaware of the true danger below. They reached the hatch. The air smelled of metal and decay. The forest seemed to hold its breath. The hatch opened slowly. Inside, the hum was deafening, vibrating through bones. The corridors pulsed with a red glow. Every wall seemed alive. Renshaw led the team through the winding steel tunnels. Cables lashed like snakes. Tanks of fused bodies twitched in unison. The machine's heart lay ahead. A massive, circular chamber, its core glowing with unnatural light. Holt's voice echoed in Renshaw's mind. War never ends, and neither does the bunker. Inside the chamber, the machine had grown. Bodies fused with metal stretched from the walls to the center. A massive eye opened in the middle, black, reflective, scanning them. "You shouldn't be here." It spoke in hundreds of voices at once. The ground shook. Steam hissed from the floor vents. Metal limbs grabbed the first team member. Screams tore through the chamber. Renshaw fired his rifle, but bullets bounced harmlessly. The machine adapted instantly, shaping the bodies into shields and spikes. He shouted, "We need to destroy the core." The team found the generator, a massive network of cables feeding into the glowing heart. Explosives were planted, but the machine sensed it. Cables whipped like living vines, tearing through steel doors, crushing machinery. Time slowed. Every heartbeat was deafening. Renshaw ran to the core with the detonator. He heard the whispers. Hundreds, thousands, screaming in unison. "Return, return, return." He pressed the detonator. The chamber erupted. Fire, metal, screams. Bodies twisted, fused, and shattered. Renshaw fell back into a side tunnel, coughing, bloodied. When the smoke cleared, the machine was gone. The bunker seemed dead. The team emerged into the cold Ardennes snow. But something was off. The hum, faint, almost imperceptible, started again, deep beneath the earth. Renshaw looked at the forest, snow falling silently. He knew, with a chilling certainty, the silent bunker was not destroyed. It was only sleeping, and somewhere below, its heart was still beating. The camera pans to the forest floor. A faint vibration, a subtle red glow seeping through the soil. The whispers echo faintly. "Return, return, return."